people didn't know that. You probably heard about Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Hove, but there were quite a bit more. This is the other one. This is Seneca Village, New York. Yeah, they had a black town in Seneca, in New York, and it tells you and it was in Manhattan, in downtown Manhattan, before Manhattan looked like the way it is now, over by Central Park. But there was a town in Seneca Village. The next black town, Five Points District, New York, is another black town in Lower Manhattan that was predominantly African American, and it tells you it was the first black settlement that started back in the 1860s and 1863. Weeksville, New York, a refuge for Southerners and Northerners. And this was another little town during the Civil War. So those of you who are history buffs, like history buffs and things like that, you want to go check it out. An African American town. It's not too far on the outskirts of Brooklyn, New York. Okay. The next town is Greenwood, Oklahoma, the Black Wall Street. This is in the early 1900s. This is Oklahoma, part of Tulsa. And it was a bunch of black businesses at that time. But when it was racial unrest, this place, Greenwood, Oklahoma, the Black Wall Street was bombed. It's from the movie. The next little black town, as you see, is called Freeman Village, Virginia. This was a safe haven for the ones who escaped from slavery, and they settled down in. This is one of the pictures of the town. They said who in 1864 worked as a teacher. Sojourner Truth came from here. The next little town, and mostly African Americans, was Allentown, California. This was another historical town of African Americans. They had a black township, and it says located on the Santa Fe rail line. The town housed a black school district, a judicial system, and a hotel. Wow. Allensworth Historical Park. The next black town, American black town, back in the time, was Freeman Town, Texas, Little Houston, Little Harlem. This is a little town that during the 1920s, this is after the slave era, they had black towns that during that time of the 20s, during the Depression, the Great Depression. The next little town we see is Davis Bend, Mississippi, a slave town. They had a slave town in Mississippi. Wow. But they had a town where black folks was at. It was founded back in the 1800s. The next little town is, I can't say the name, Mook Chuck Nick, Iowa. You can pronounce that. Iowa. This is this little strange sounding town, the Strike Breakers. But there was a town from 1875 to 1900, and this is what it looked like. There was another black town in Iowa. There's two black towns. Back in this was back in 1900s. It was known for black laborers coming from Virginia, West Virginia. Black families moved there. The next town, it's called Little Philadelphia, Illinois. A pioneer town for the frontier. Don't show any pictures of it. Wait a minute. Here it is. They go to pictures. This is the town looked like. This was funded back in 1836. in late to late 1800s, and they had, you know, they had their own town. Black people had towns. They had during the war. Our American black people had towns. You show this to anybody. This is your history. We wouldn't always at the bottom. We had towns and worked in ministry, labor, and everything. This is Pine Oak, Colonial, Illinois. This was founded back in 1880. The ordinance was 1787. And right after the Civil War, many residents relocated to other towns. There was a Civil War, but as you see, Blackdom, Mexico, the Black Ghost Town. And guess that's the last one. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this what Black Americans, they had their own towns where they lived at. They were laborers, shoemakers, and everything, farmers, and right after the war. So they had their own towns where blacks were ran by blacks, owned by blacks, and they did it back during the time right after slavery. So called for the we wouldn't shiftless and lazy and incompetent. These towns, most of us had towns like this. This is our heritage. So don't let no one tell you that that's part of. Okay then, till next time, I'm gonna be uploading this. But yeah, don't let no one tell you. Don't let nobody tell you that black people didn't have no towns. Because they did. Black Americans contribute a lot right during the war and after the war. And after to 1700s to the 1900s. They had their own town. This is across the country. Gotta make that clear. You are true patriots. If anybody. But you know, as towns fade on and things, and they went through some, you know, some of these town people left because of violence, you know, racial violence and things like that, riots and things like you see today. It would literally burn towns. This, you know, America is founded on violence. It did, so it's always been here. It's nothing that it was never really. It's like someone said, it was never really a good time because every time you turn around from the 1700s to the 1900s, and after the 1900s, there was always some racial unrest or some tension. So we in the 21st century is going through the same thing that you seen from the late 1700s when they got slavery all through the 1800s, all through the 1900s. You know, all these little towns. You would never know about these towns that they were African Americans that ran them, that they were separate and they could hold their own. You would never know that. America don't usually like to tell stories like this until you have to go to the internet one day and find out. But anyway, I say that holy till next time. Be blessed.